Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
Star Trek Podcast.
It was a dark and stormy 57162.3. A stardate just like this.
Castro really nailed the theme tonight, didn't she?
And what is the theme? Pillows?
Personal battlefields.
Oh, great, because this one is mine.
That really I wasn't in the Enterprise. The Enterprise was in me all along. Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you.
Yeah!
Speak it, honey,
So
speak
good.
And now, please welcome a new voice, Mariner.
Me? Oh, no. I mean, I didn't prepare anything.
That's okay. Just speak your truth.
Yeah, I'd rather just listen to y'all's truths.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it. The intention I'm detecting is that you're kind of disrespecting my salon.
Oh, no, I don't want to disrespect anything.
Jenny was right. You do love being contrary. Anya, you wanna go next?
Oh, yeah, of course. I call this piece the Kobayashi Maroon. There's no right way to dance it.
So should we make a podcast happen?
We could try.
It's already 11:35.
Okay, do you want to start the podcast?
What are you,
Dan?
like the clock and the timekeeper? You got the union clock over there?
Union clock.
Okay, start the podcast, Dan. I'll chime in as needed.
Start the podcast.
Welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast, starring Jesse on the microphone.
This one.
And Patrick on the microphone.
That one over there.
And me, Dan, on the other microphone.
You suck.
This is episode 152. Is that right?
Yeah. I was gonna say, is this where I chime
Probably.
in and say what the episode title is?
Sure, do that.
Okay. This is episode 100.
Welcome.
I almost got to do it. It's episode 152 of the It's Got Star
Lower
Trek
Decks.
podcast. Yes, Jesse. We're talking about Lower Decks. This is Interjection City today on the It's Got Star
So
Trek
it's the
podcast.
same
Interjection
as
City.
every week, you mean?
No. This week we are going to be we're gonna do everything in a nice, organized fashion. How about that?
You've said that before.
I know, but it's good
But
to
we've
remind
done
ourselves.
it before.
Yeah, no, from time to time
done
we
it.
should give it the old college try.
For maybe like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Maybe did for like 2 seconds instead of 200 seconds.
Okay, yeah. So
When people do that thing where they go like 2 seconds, but then they say like 7 days, more like 7 years.
yeah,
It's like doesn't have to be the same number.
I know, and in this case, you're that.
I don't
people.
really know
Yeah,
what you're
I'm that
talking
people.
You're that
Jesse, you
people.
know what I'm talking about.
Okay,
You know it the most.
know what I'm
so yes. This is the It's Got Star Trek podcast. We are welcoming you to the podcast. That's Dan. That's what we're supposed to do right up at the top. At the
Welcome.
beginning. Welcome to the podcast. We appreciate your patronage or whatever.
Your tunelage.
Yeah, whatever the appropriate term for borrowing someone's
tunelage.
ears for a little while. is.
Tunelage.
Just borrowing somebody's auditory centers. Yeah. So welcome and the podcast. Oh yeah, Lower Decks.
We're doing that.
Lower Decks. Season 3, episode 6. Yeah,
Yep.
episode 6.
Ses en español.
Hear all, trust nothing. That is the episode we're discussing.
You know, I want to say something. Originally, I was looking at it, I was like, does that say I hear all, trust nothing? That's a weird title, but you know what it was? Between the episode 6, between the 6 and the H, there was what we call in programming, it's this character is used as a pipe operator in certain things, but it's the straight line, the vertical line key on the keyboard. What's that? I don't know what that's called, but 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 between the 6 and the 6 of the episode 6 and then between that and the H from hear all, there was a line, and I thought it said I hear all, trust nothing. And could you imagine if I had never corrected myself, we would have gone through another 30 minutes of talking about how I fucked up the title of the episode.
I
Missing some.
Oh no!
I was
that seems
I
to
was
be-
going to comment that is
Right.
a very nice little
That has happened.
anecdote. That's a good anecdote.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's common for me to mistitle the episode by adding a the or apostrophe s somewhere or something like that.
I will say it is increasingly common for you to do that, and it's a bit perplexing.
Well, I'm becoming increasingly older, so
So you blame it on your age?
Yeah, sure.
What sort of brain melt sort of situation?
Sometimes I blame it on the rain.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a Milli Vanilli reference.
All right. We will do this in a nicely organized fashion. First, we need to. We don't need to. We're offering this out there. If you're not yet on Star Trek Twitter, you know that like corner of Twitter that all the Star Trek fans hang out in.
It's just the part of Twitter that's not full of like poison and vitriol, and
it's not full
venomous.
of it. There's a little bit.
It tries some venom. Some tries some venom. Oh no!
like cinnamon?
Take your vitamins. Some venom slips in every once in a while.
Vitamin.
Slips in once in a while, but people are usually pretty good at squishing it back out, squishing that pus out.
Overall, I think if you haven't given it a try yet, or even if you haven't given Twitter a try yet. The Star Trek Twitter community, that's a good way in because you'll have a nice time. Follow us, by the way, at It's Got Star Trek. You follow us on Twitter and you'll get exposed to all sorts of awesome people, content, other fellow content creators and awesome fans and just cool discussions, funny memes.
Do you think actually though that there is a separate Star Trek corner of Twitter where all the dungeon Star Trek sort of
you mean the bad people?
The bad people hang out. Because they try to sneak into the
Star
good
Trek
one.
dungeon.
Yes,
but
there are
still
skirmishes. There's skirmishes in which there's cross pollination.
So I've never gone looking for that corner of Twitter, and I don't really want to, but I am curious if it exists.
Just type in the hashtag New Trek, NU Trek.
Oh, it make me so bummed
That's
out.
how you find those people.
When I see that shit, I get when I see,
or you do a search for Star Trek and woke.
Yeah,
then you'll find the less fun corner of the Star
and
Trek.
woke meaning people talking shit about tolerance, basically. Woke. When I'm saying when you say woke, you look for people using woke derogatorily.
Yes,
meaning
which are the primary people using that term these days.
Yeah, which were people that are sort of sort of intolerant, kind of everything is woke, meaning the white man is trying to be destroyed or something like that. I don't know, something it's something ridiculous. So and so we don't mean. I want to make it clear that we don't mean this world we live in is too woke, man. We're saying that the people. You're saying that the people who talk about woke nowadays are generally speaking, really sort of upsetting
that's
people.
how you find those people. But that's not.
Anyways,
that's not what you're gonna find. You can find the cool people.
Yeah, because honestly,
we don't follow the bad people. You follow us. You'll get in with the cool people.
Whenever I stumble on stuff like that, it actually brings my mood down for a good 5 minutes, and
we wouldn't want that.
No, you wouldn't.
We want a happy Dan.
Yeah,
moving forward. But yeah, I don't know. Go check it out. There's tons of cool people on the Trek Twitter. So have fun. It's a good, fun place to comment and have discussions and all sorts of stuff like that. And we're pretty active on Trek Twitter. So I don't know. You're listening to the show. You might be entertained by some of the nonsense that comes across the Twitter feed. Okay. So that does that bit. And then we'll move on to the
hateful. That's the word I was looking for. The people who complain about people who complain about
hateful.
When people who complain about this whole woke culture, they're full of hate. Now maybe that doesn't have to be a permanent thing. Maybe that hate will leave them, but it feels like they're currently full of a lot of hate.
Well, yes, perhaps we'll fulfill our promise of doing an episode. Going way back, we were like, oh yeah, we should talk about that sector of the fandom, but we haven't gotten around to it yet because it's, like you said, it's kind of
a bummer. Yeah.
Depressing. I think it'd be more fun to get together with one of the other podcasts, maybe, and chat about that stuff.
That actually deserve. Yeah. No,
just to broaden out,
yeah.
So it's not so much just us being sad. And
I totally agree. Thinking we're all alone in our island, we share it with everyone.
Okay.
Island podcast.
So the discussion portion of the podcast can now commence, in which we provide humorous / insightful points about the episode in question.
Discussion.
Are you a fucking Star Wars robot?
Discussion. Activate.
Short-circuited.
Discussion mode. Activate.
Okay, is that what we were getting at?
Looks like you were freezing up there.
I was.
It was a bit of a.
I was
it was
glitching.
a bit of a bug. It was a glitch.
I think I crashed for a minute.
Well, we're doing a good job of this whole being organized thing. So how about this? Here are some
I'm fully
proposed
organized.
topics for discussion. even though you like these, you'll want to discuss these topics. I'm quite certain. I've known you guys for a very long time. I'm pretty sure you'll be into these topics. I mean, whatever. But this is a basic framework for what we shall discuss this evening. So first of all, just in an overall sense, we can talk about returning to Deep Space Nine.
Yay!
Which, of course, was an exciting
that's
thing.
That's a big part of it.
Then there's more specifically like Kira and Quark, all that stuff going on there. Some cool stuff. Mariner and Jen.
Jennifer.
Right, that's
Yes.
Only some people. Oh wait, no, they call her Jenny.
Jenny, yeah.
That's what it was. Jenny.
Tendi and Mesk.
Jenny.
Tendi and Mesk, and then of course
Mesk,
some
that was his name.
odds and ends. So that's what we'll go over. We'll go over those. So if there are no objections, and if we have a quorum, which I believe we do,
Quorum to go over.
we can start into the initial topic of conversation, which will be, as prescribed by the outline, the return to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, that was awesome. I it didn't. Starting on the right foot here. Foot forward. These are one of those moments, and it's not a big deal, but these are one of these moments where I wish that they weren't, and I know they do it to help get people to watch, but I wish they wouldn't be like, the crew goes to Deep Space Nine in like the description, and even if you don't read the description, you still see a picture of Deep Space Nine in the, when you're like playing the, like there's no way to enter that episode without knowing that they're going to Deep Space Nine. You could ignore the internet all week, you could ignore the description. Well, no, you couldn't. You can't ignore the internet.
I argue that in our modern society, it is a practical impossibility to ignore the internet for an entire week.
I've done it.
You can try.
I've done it
for an entire week.
Yeah, and you can ignore certain. You can get by without knowing certain things.
How did you play online video games?
What do you mean?
That counts as the internet.
Okay, no, but what I mean is
people like in the chat when they insult you, they'll be referencing your current events.
Now, look, I'm. I know this,
like,
right?
You suck harder than that Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, right. And you go to,
that sort of thing.
Okay,
Who said that?
Look, I got to this.
Kids say shit.
I got to this episode without actually. I didn't even remember that it was a Deep Space Nine episode, and I hadn't read anything about it on the internet. So, like, I was like, when I saw it, I was like, it actually reminded me because, like, I had forgotten.
It reminded you to be aggravated about the thing that you'd forgotten.
Yes, basically.
They should never have shown that.
That sounds like a They Might Be Giants song.
Yeah, it does. We were just talking about They Might Be Giants before.
That was in a pre-podcast discussion.
Anyway, so
that
my
frequently features They Might Be Giants.
That wasn't on the podcast.
I think most of that was not on the podcast.
I would just prefer that if they didn't put the image of Deep Space Nine in the thumbnail when you're playing the episode because it's just it's kind of like, oh, I would have rather been surprised, but it's not a big deal because I understand why they do it, and I know I'm unreasonable because I'm like one of the few people that gets like that anal about that kind of shit.
I think the counterpoint would be
because I can ignore a description, but you can't ignore a picture.
The counterpoint would be
you can't ignore.
It's me then. Yeah, it is me.
You can't handle the truth.
You're right. It is my problem.
Since the entire episode takes place there, the notion of surprise is a little less relevant. That would be the argument.
Well,
the
right.
marketing
It's
department
not exactly a spoiler.
Because
No,
it's like right at the beginning. It's like they show up at Deep Space Nine,
and even so,
and they do the gag.
Keep circling.
They do that circling gag.
Even when it hit and knowing what was happening when they played the music, I was all feeling like all nostalgic and like it was really
cool.
awesome, and it was like all inspirational. It's like with that music.
Deep Space Nine is still it's sort of my
the wormhole opening in the background.
It's my personal favorite opening theme, which I think is debatable because there's a lot of other themes that I quite like, but there's just such it evokes so much in me because of what I watched when watching that show, and I have such an emotional attachment to that particular television program that that one jumps out at me. So
it's very contemplative, just kind of like almost there's almost
contemplative. There's just an alternate pronunciation. Both are acceptable.
Alternate.
Are you trying to say something?
No, I'm making the point that your pronunciation, great.
Then why did you even make the point?
I'm just making conversation here. It's a podcast. This is the charming part. It's the sort of charming back and forth.
This is where he's implicitly criticizing something I did.
I did not criticize you.
Implicitly.
This is where you presume critique.
No, I can tell
where
by
none was intended.
No, but I can tell by the telltale signs. Like you brought up something that didn't need to be brought up.
I just like words.
When you go to someone, you say, "Oh, what you said is totally fine."
He likes words.
Oh, by the way, that thing you
Likes
just
to
said,
say
Jesse,
words.
it's technically acceptable.
Yeah.
I like to say it like this.
No.
There's nothing to say that I'm more right than you, but more people say what I say.
No, I don't. I wouldn't argue that either. In fact,
Is it
I
like
think that-
schism and schism?
Nobody says schism.
Okay, dude, you're
No,
fucking
schism.
out of your fucking mind. Dude. What are you
I'd
talking
say
about,
schism
Jesse?
before I'd say schism.
No,
Schedule?
Schism is like the
Syzygy?
schism is like the super proper way to say it.
Is
Like,
it?
Schism is like a totally fine way to say it. You can say it both ways.
Now Jesse has turned the tables. I didn't know that.
But yeah, Deep Space Nine. Back at Deep Space
There
Nine.
was a feeling of, it almost has a feeling of royalty in this sort of like way, like you're walking around holding this very this very like you're holding around this sphere and you're carrying the sphere around the room, and there's superpowers, and it's all reverent, and like you're putting the sphere, and it is like reverent because it's like the whole
We're talking about the Deep Space Nine music?
yeah, because it's
Okay.
like it's the
I
whole,
was understanding until the sphere business. I was confused by
you're
the-
carrying around a reverence. It's like listening to the music is like carrying around a
You mean
reverent.
like a Palantir?
Listening to the music is like carrying around a reverent sphere and being very
reverent sphere.
carefully placing it on a podium in front of like a bunch of people. Kind of like it makes sense because Deep Space Nine is all about the prophets and shit, you know? So it's all about reverence.
And prophet can mean both the prophet as in the prophets that live in the wormhole and the prophets that Quark is seeking.
You're right.
He's constantly seeking prophets.
Wow. We just did it.
Okay. Other things
You did,
about
dude. You did.
other things
did
about
it.
the return to Deep Space Nine, they made a point to have a lot of. Not only did they pay so much detail to the actual animating the set design and everything of Deep Space Nine,
Pylon.
they also mimic certain camera angles, like the camera angle over the Dabo table and the camera angle with Quark at the bar. I mean, shot for shot, almost from screen grabs from Deep Space Nine. There was the
It was like a miniature Deep Space Nine episode.
yeah, well, yeah, and there was the what do you call it? The conference table, that like awesome Deep Space Nine light up like super long conference table. Again, it's not just the table in the room, but also where they position the camera was mimicking a lot of stuff. So they did a lot with the music and all the set design and everything that evoked all that good Deep Space Nine-ness.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like they walked into the promenade at the very start. There's like, what wasn't there? There like two Ferengis in the back, like scheming. Wasn't there? There was like, there was like two Ferengis. There was one like with his head cocked sideways, and he was like wringing his hands, and he was all going like, did I make that up? Was that something that was in there?
I don't have a specific recollection of that.
I swear I remembered something
Somebody
like
was
that.
like, "There's a tailor and like some Bajoran knickknacks."
Yeah, they reference a tailor, which is obviously supposed to evoke Garrick.
Yeah.
However, the last time we saw Garrick, he was, again, no spoilers on Deep Space Nine, but he was like had some other plans. But he could have been coming back to the station by now.
So there was apparently
I mean, somebody could have taken over that spot.
I like that I like the idea that O'Brien's dartboard is somehow famous.
Yeah.
What was it? What else was there? There was Bajoran food court, whatever that means.
Oh yeah. What
I
are
swear-
Bajorans eat?
Batleths are us. Did you see the Batleths
Oh, I
are us
didn't see
store?
the names of any stores. I swear I saw a Ferengi scheming in the background.
You're just gonna
Well, there
Google
was-
Ferengi
I
scheming,
think
doing the
that's
hand
racist,
thing.
Yes, yeah, I don't know what else
Like
to
when
do.
Boimler's like he was doing the hand thing and everything.
It's kind of weird to hear their voices, like the
Have you
actual.
ever heard your voice?
It's weird to hear like Kira's voice and Nana Visitor's voice and Armand Shimmerman's voice.
It was a little funny
because it's you're so used to seeing it. I'm so used to use my I statements. Because I can't speak for what you do. I see you do the doo. It's Scooby Doo can doo, but smarter or sarter
What
is
happened?
smarter. That was from the Simpsons.
Jesse, it's okay. This is one of those evenings with Dan. It's just,
With Dan.
It's just
What's going on?
It's quicker if we just let it go.
this is you get different flavors. This is tonight's special.
Doo-doo.
You do. What were you talking about?
Something about you were saying something about doo-doo.
the doo-doo, the you-do.
How do you
I
do
do
the doo-doo that you
something-
do
yeah,
so
Oh,
well?
because
that's
when
what it
I
was.
watch something...
Yes. When you were saying when you watch, and then you corrected yourself and said when I watch.
And what were we talking about before
We're
then?
talking about Lower Deck Season 3, Episode 6. Hear all, trust nothing. That's what we were talking about. Ferengi scheming in the background.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
where-
the voices. Okay.
the voices of Nana
the
Visitor
one, not the ones in my head.
and Armin Shimmerman.
Yeah, so when I
not
watched it,
those.
I'm so used to seeing them associated with a real person's body as opposed to like a cartoon body.
It sounds different.
It sounds different, and I'm
Yeah.
imagining because of the way the sound, maybe probably also the way the sound design is set up, because they're in these sort of studio booths doing
Yeah.
the
Well, there's
voiceovers.
also- and they're older.
20 bunch of over 20 years later.
Yeah.
which is which
Yeah.
makes
They're
a difference.
returning to
Yeah.
these characters after such a
Armin
long time.
Shimmerman,
But
did
it's like
say,
it did sound clearer in a way. Maybe that's just in general sound quality became more crisp over time. But I feel like it must have something to do with voiceovers being done in a studio. And unless you're doing like whatever that term is when you do the overdubbing with the voice, there's a term for that.
ADR.
Yeah, AVR. Unless you're doing that, like, I mean, how much? I mean, I know nothing about this. How much in an episode is when they're talking? Is that voice actually? Are they mic'd?
My
Or-
favorite is when it's an obvious one where somebody is being filmed from behind or something, or from far away.
Yeah, right. You can see their
And
mouth
it's
not
clear,
moving.
they're clearly saying something different,
Yeah.
or their mouth's not moving.
Yeah, it's actually pretty common. That happens a lot.
Oh yeah, you're always having to fix stuff
But-
in the edit.
so-
And provide, the studio will be like, we don't understand how this happens, so you have to like spell it out. So add a line of dialogue that says the plot that even though a normal audience member could totally figure it out on their own.
Right. Yeah, that's probably where most of that comes from. So I want to know if anyone knows this, because I feel ashamed that I don't know this. But in like a TV show, when they're recording they're speaking their parts, how much of it is actually them speaking, and how much of it is AVR?
I think it's both, but I think
Nobody knows
I
that.
think the goal. I
Nobody knows.
Speaking from a lay perspective, my understanding is that the goal is you want to get as much audio on at the moment as possible,
Right.
Because it's more
And-
natural and it's
and-
just easier. And ADR is a pain in the ass
right.
process.
ADR. Okay, so that would actually add to the reason why it would sound different in the
Automated dialogue recording.
And that would add to the reason why it's different in the watching it as a cartoon version, because like I just said, they're in like little studio booths, and like you just said, it feels more to get a more natural feel. They want to record it, on the TV shows on the go. So there's all this other ambient noise and stuff. But when you're recording in a studio, there's no ambient noise. So it sounds a little artificial in a way. But
Well, Armin Shimmerman did say on Twitter that he needed
Ambient Armin
he,
Shimmerman.
he had to put the quark teeth in order to get the voice
Oh.
right.
well,
Yeah.
that's funny.
And maybe he was joking, but it didn't seem
No,
like
I
he was. It
believe
sounded
it.
like he was like, no, yeah. He was like, yeah, you got to stick the little teeth in there to get the proper quark voice.
Yeah. So quack.
So other stuff from the Deep Space Nine era, like the Karema aliens, right?
Right, yeah.
So they showed up a few times in Deep Space Nine. They were a member of the Dominion. And they were mentioned, and then we
Weird
met
phase
a couple of them. But there was a really good episode, Starship Down, with the Quark, where Quark is basically stuck with one of those guys in a bomb, basically. So he has close association with them. So it was fun seeing that group of people again. And characterized very similarly to how they were characterized on Deep Space Nine. And also, we know that Quark has a history with these people, so it's totally reasonable that somewhere along the line he janked some of their technology in order to make his little what was the Quark 2000 or something, or
It's
Quark
really
5000?
normal Quark stuff and not very, it's like, yeah, of course he did that. Like,
Well, so what was the deal? Yeah, right. He did he steal their technology, or
It's
just
normal
their
Quark
did
behavior.
Did he steal their technology, or just their recipes?
I think he
don't-
just stole
No,
their machine.
He stole their technology and then reprogrammed it to make basically it was replicator technology that they had developed. It has some, and maybe this wasn't clear in the episode, but it seems to have some quality that makes their replicated food taste better, right?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was. I got that.
Oh, that's what it was.
I got that
I thought.
And so that's why he was taking it and then he was rebranding it and reprogramming it with Alpha Quadrant different delicacies.
He was just saying like that it was all his like special tweaks.
Right.
He was probably just putting standard
like how
recipes into the replicator.
Yeah,
and
like-
it was just a really good replicator.
like how like Chili's, they'll send out like special spice packets for their chicken tenders, and it's like, dude, you're just making chicken tenders.
So yeah, I
You
was
just put a bunch of MSG in there.
I was
That's
confused.
the secret.
I was confused. I thought it originally was just like he found his own set of recipes and put them in there, and I was like, couldn't anyone just do that? Put their own set of recipes? Like,
yeah, if they also stole the technology.
Okay, I didn't realize that this technology was like adding extra umami or whatever.
That was the implication where, everyone was like,
Yeah.
the stuff here is extra good.
Okay, I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't super clear, but it was
Super
there. It was
clear.
there. I got it.
You got it.
You missed it.
You missed it. I missed it. We all missed it.
Yeah.
So let's see. Notable absences. There's no
Notable absences.
no Odo for obvious reasons.
No dough.
No dough.
no
No dough. So I mean, there's the idea. There's
Rest in peace, Rene Aubergenois.
right. So there's the whole gag was Odo and Quark had this sort of like Batman Robin, but I'm sorry, Batman
Batman and Robin.
Batman Joker thing where it was like they like
Bashir and O'Brien were like Batman and Robin.
yeah right.
They just took turns being Batman.
Well, it's just where they man. Well, it was just like where they hate each other but they need each other because they ultimately love each other or something. But Kira also hates Quark, and at the very end of the episode it like kind of was funny. It kind of ended on a little classic Kira chasing Quark around.
Yeah, but I think they've like sort of
Quark helped out with a lot of things.
They've grown. It's been like a long time at this point.
Yeah, but
in like the timeline.
well, right, yeah, but there's still some things never die, just like Kira's.
Sure.
Because at the very end of the episode, Kira's chasing Quark around, and it's just like classic, like yeah.
Well, I mainly like the fact that these were not
He's still a character.
they weren't simple cameos, right? Especially Quark. I mean, it was integral to the plot of the episode, or at least one of the threads.
Some people would say integral.
Yes, exactly. It was integral
they?
or integral,
Would they?
whichever your personal preference is. We are agnostic, are we not, Dan? We are agnostic to how you might pronounce that term.
agnostic.
But yeah, they were like it was necessary to the plot, and I like that. I like when Lower Decks
Eggnog stick.
Eggnog stick.
Lower Decks has had plenty of like
eggnog.
cameos, like the
Sounds pretty good.
when they had Q on. That was a pure cameo. It was funny. It was great, but it was a pure cameo. When they had Tom Paris on, he was a little more involved, but it was still a cameo level. This was more. These are the characters we're interacting with.
Yeah.
Which was neat. And they had all sorts of wonderful little extra touches, like Kira looking out the window, and then you saw like the reflection of the wormhole opening, which was a common shot on Deep Space Nine, another common shot. She had Captain Sisko's baseball on the desk, and she was tossing it around, so that was cool. And of course, millions of little, too many to list here, little Easter eggs, like Rutherford saying he wanted to like talk to like a junior reporter up there, which is like also a reference to like, some, I think it was, something to do with Jake,
Some
right?
kind of Jake Sisko shit.
And of course the stores on the promenade, reference to the tailor shop, all that kind of stuff. So,
but it
was
wasn't
fun.
like there isn't that much on the promenade. It's just like a bunch of it's a couple of kiosks in the tailor.
Well,
and then now they got a Bajoran food court.
What I hope they'll do is
Bajoran?
I would like it for Deep Space Nine to be a sort of a semi-regular place where they show up.
That would be
And
cool.
It doesn't always have to be totally focused on the station, but it makes sense for them to be hanging out at Deep Space Nine from time to time.
Mariner's been there.
Mariner's been there. It's a busy port.
Yeah.
There's reasons to be there. There's reasons to go to the Gamma Quadrant, potentially. This was a reminder of that the Cerritos certainly could head over to the Gamma Quadrant and have some fun adventures over there, and not necessarily be a sort of a fun homage to or fun time hanging out at Deep Space Nine. It could just be like Deep Space Nine's just like along the way. Like they've referenced they've stopped by other star bases before. You know,
can play some Dabo.
Just put it in the rotation. Develop some characters online.
I like when Boimler was playing Dabo and he was all good at it. Suddenly his hair got all slicked back and his flap was open, like all cool. He became like cool Boimler.
Yeah, bold Boimler.
Bold Boimler. And he got he got extra Ferengi bucks because like he wasn't going to even spend those. He probably wouldn't have even taken those.
He was so delighted. There's a blink and you miss it scene right at the end of the episode where
Blink an eye, miss it. Not use your eye statements.
No, the blink and eye. There's a blink and eye, miss it. I don't think we have to do that if it's a colloquialism.
Okay.
Blink and you miss it.
Fair enough.
But yeah, when Rutherford and Tendi and stuff, they're all like in Quark's talking at some table. In the foreground, he's all blurry because they're focused on the people sitting at the table. But in the foreground, you see Boimler walking by with just his fucking arms filled with Quark merchandise.
Oh, I missed that.
Like it's like an overflowing hand, and the look on his face, he's just got this big ass smile.
I missed that.
He's had the best time.
Oh my stars.
Hanging out. He was the entire time he was at Deep Space Nine. He just hung out in Quark's playing Dabo and getting a bunch of junk.
I got to see that again because I missed that. But speaking of missing things, at about 4:45 into the episode, yes, there's what looks to be a Bajoran teenager and a Bajoran teenager, young Bajoran teenager, and young.
You're saying there's two?
Did I say Quark?
No, you said two Bajoran teenagers, which was confusing.
I actually blacked out and I totally forgot what I just said.
Oh man,
I totally forgot. That was weird.
We'll take you to the hospital after we're done recording this episode.
Is it time for a break?
It's almost time for a break.
There was a Bajoran.
We'll come back and Dan won't be here anymore.
There was a Bajoran teenager, what looked to be a Bajoran teenager. I say looked to be a teenager, definitely was Bajoran. And there was a Ferengi teenager. And they were hanging out in some alley in the promenade, and the Ferengi was all doing the scheming thing where he was wringing his hands.
Do you think he was selling some illegal jump?
And he was doing
jump sticks?
He was doing that snickering, like sort of like
sniveling.
Sniveling, not sniveling.
Not sniveling. Would that be sniveling?
No, it's snickering.
Snickering. Is it snickering like?
No.
Snickering is like a laughing.
No, that's what he was doing. He's going. Like that, like he was laughing, like with like his big teeth.
That's tattering.
Jesus Christ,
tittering.
Okay.
So that scene was there, and there was a Jordan, and that was kind of like sort of a Rom and Jake kind of situation because that's what they would basically do.
Right.
That's
where Jake would look all concerned, and like Rom would be like, "Yeah, we can do this." Nog, sorry, not Rom is the one who's like,
Rom is the other guy.
No.
Moogie. Rom's great. I'd like to see Rom again.
Yeah.
Again, another reason to come back to Deep Space Nine.
For real. Rom is the secret.
I bet he's not there.
He's the real star.
So for a couple other important Deep Space Nine references. The name of the episode, "Hear All, Trust Nothing," is the 190th Ferengi rule of acquisition. Okay.
Really?
And we get to hear Quark's patented Quark scream a couple times.
Yeah.
Like near the beginning of the episode and or partway through the episode and then again at the end when Kira's chasing him.
Well, there was also the classic when he goes no, he's like no, because she's talking about because he had to pay 76. That's a lot. He had to pay 76% of his further profits.
Was it 79%?
It was 76%.
Okay.
I looked it up.
All right.
I didn't look it up. I heard it. I wrote it down. That's what I should have said.
All right.
You don't believe me. You're giving me the I don't believe you thing.
I'm giving you the I have no clue. It's 70 something.
I'm pretty sure it's 76.
It's the type of detail that is probably not particularly relevant one way or the other.
Well, I have 76 written down. Anyways,
of the show.
It's neither here nor there. But when I guess it's a Freeman or something, someone says like, wouldn't you rather be like
poorer than in jail?
And he's like, no. Yeah, and that was a classic sort of Quark no. And that's 76 is like a fucking or 79. I'm saying it's 76. Anything above 75% is like that's
it's like anything above 75%. That's a totally reasonable profit sharing agreement.
Well, I'm just saying, dude, just so we can include both 76 and 79, so we don't have to argue about it. So anything above that's a ruinous amount of money to have to pay. Like it should have been more like 5%.
But maybe Quark is gonna get to do something because there's another Ferengi rule of acquisition right at the end of the episode when he takes that gold tooth from Tendi. And then he says the ninth rule of acquisition, which is opportunity plus instinct equals profit.
Mm-hmm. So maybe this is an opportunity.
Yeah, maybe he'll be. Well, we already know he has. How many franchises did they say he had? 25, 29?
I thought he said 19, but I don't know. It was something.
Nah, I think it was more than that. It was 20 something.
I think it was like 19.
Okay. All right. Anyway, he has a bunch of franchises. We've already seen a few of them. I think there was one on Starbase 25.
It says 21.
There was one on what was it? Was it like Galor 3? Maybe had a Quarks.
The one with the
Picard, on
Picard.
Picard and Stardust City Rag
Yeah,
has
that
one,
one.
except that's 18 years in the future from this episode.
And they got a Cisco's too. Right?
yeah.
This says
Cisco's is just still there. I don't think that's a franchise.
And
They
this-
went to the original Cisco's in New Orleans.
as of this episode, Nolans. As of this episode, it was 21 franchises. I'm looking it up.
There you go. 21 franchises.
That was
Looked
close.
up, confirmed, number confirmed based off of internet information. So we're good to go there. But yeah, so he's doing all right. He's still going to be making money off of those things. And now he has this gold tooth, which maybe he can do
Well,
some
actually, Tendy was
bribery with
well,
or something.
this was what. First of all, I was confused. Like, who in the future still wears gold teeth? That seems like you would just
Some
get
of
it
the
replicated.
Karema? Is that how you pronounce it?
Dirty
Karema?
Gamma Quadrant alien.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, and then, but also then, Tendy was talking about how the latinum in the tooth allowed her to do something. So, what was it? A gold pressed latinum tooth? I guess
Yeah,
that's the deal.
probably.
Because you can't have latinum's a liquid, right?
Yeah, you use the gold to hold it. And
Yeah,
gold
so-
has no inherent value.
And so there was
Oh,
latinum
but you
in
can
this tooth.
replicate it.
Yeah, so like, why would you have a gold pressed latinum tooth? Because it's like,
just in cases, if you're getting up to some business, just in cases one day, or maybe you're just rich and that's what you're into. Maybe that's how you display, you culturally
Maybe you
display
like how
your
it
wealth
tastes.
by having
you're just
a gold pressed.
you're just basically walking up to people and saying like, "Hey, punch me in the mouth and steal my teeth." You know.
Maybe you're also trying to convey that you are not scared of that because you're so fucking awesome.
It's not that much.
So awesome.
You're so awesome. You're just gonna lay them out.
Because you're so fucking awesome.
Teeth aren't that big. It's probably not that much.
Do you know what would be really awesome?
At break.
A break. All right, so we'll take a quick break. With luck, when we get back, Dan will still be here.
Whoa, guys! What's going on?
Where's Dan going?
don't
Where's he going?
know, guys. Where are you taking me?
All right, and we'll continue this lovely discussion of
What?
Star Trek Lower Decks,
He's
Season 3,
fading
Episode
out.
6. Hear all, trust nothing. Be right back.
Oh no!
Okay, we're back. And guess what? I count up 1, 2, 3. We're all here.
I'm
Excellent.
here.
We're still 3 people.
We're all here.
We're all here.
You made
Isn't
it.
that great?
You made
A
it.
couple things to wrap up with the sort of the core Deep Space Nine stuff. Well, actually, I guess we could just move on to the Kira and like there's a couple things we didn't mention about Kira.
Kira
the Shaxs-
Nerys?
Yeah, the whole Shaxs business, right? That was wonderful. I mean, somewhat predictable. But
She called him a barrow bug.
yes, which is
Scarred up old barrow bug.
I can't remember when, but that's a reference. That's some sort of Bajoran bug or beetle or something.
the closed captioning spelled it BAR space ROW. That sounds like bar row.
I think it's just a barrow, like like a barrow, like the Barrow Downs in Lord
Like
of the
a-
Rings.
Like a cairn.
Yeah, like
apparently the
barrow
transcript
bug,
transcript says BAR space ROW.
Yeah, the transcript doesn't mean shit, man. They get that shit wrong all the time.
Well,
shit,
I'm
man.
just
Come on.
saying.
What's the
Jesus
shit?
Christ. Sometimes
a bunch
it's
of nerds
right.
with a typewriter.
No, I think the transcript is probably just the closed captioning file put onto like the internet, because those closed captionings just come in a file, and they probably just take that file and put it.
You just take that file, just download that file.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, I enjoyed the relationship with Kira and Shaxs. Makes sense that they would have both been, age-wise and everything, that they both would have been in the Resistance at the same time.
Yeah.
I like Shaxs being just hating the Cardassian architecture.
Right.
The fascist architecture.
And they just sort of feed off of each other's sort of Bajoran feistiness.
Yeah.
the whole arguing with each other over who owed who
Right.
in
Yeah.
their life
They keep
was
saving each other.
pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Because usually it's like, I don't want to be in your debt. It's like, I'm in your debt. No, I'm in your debt. That's pretty hilarious. Yeah. It's just a loving way to fight.
It is a loving way to fight.
Yep. So that was fun. There's good fun things that happened with that fun stuff.
Anything else in sort of
fun.
in general on that Deep Space Nine?
Generally fun.
That what was interesting with the way this episode was broken down
Break it down.
is you have like sort of A, B, C, and D plots kind of because
Talking about structure of a song.
no, in this case it's the structure of a show.
A, B, A, C.
Stick with it.
Not A,
Stick
B,
with
A,
it,
C,
man.
A, B, C, D. Like so, okay. I don't know which one you place where, and I think you could make an argument for different ones, right? But you have the Deep Space Nine plot with Quark and Kira, and that's interwoven with the separate plot of Tendi dealing with this Mesk fellow, who we'll get to that topic in just a bit, and Rutherford's tagging along for the ride there. And then you have the Mariner and Jen plot, which is a good character building plot, but it's fairly light in terms of plot and stuff like that. And then you have this extra little like Boimler just playing Dabo, which is not really a plot. It's just kind of this funny little extra thing going on. I say all that by as a means to segue into
Don't be mean.
to the Mariner and Jennifer plot, which
Is it Jen or Jennifer? Pick one. Pick a lane.
no, you can say
think it was
whatever you
ever
want.
Jen.
Well, you can say whatever you want, and I'm saying
I
pick a
don't think you
lane.
can just say
You
whatever.
can say Jenny, Jen, or Jennifer.
Some people who
I would like to know. I don't know what she prefers. She may prefer Jennifer. I mean, her
think-
friends call her Jenny, but friends don't necessarily call you nice things.
you shouldn't
Have
call.
you ever met
You-
met anyone actually named Jennifer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so have you. We happen to know you. Like, you might not recall, but like you know some people named
You can
Jennifer.
say
I'm
whatever
just
you can
playing.
say whatever you want, but it's rude to call somebody something they don't want to be called.
No, I agree with that, but this is also in addition. We don't have enough information to know, so we can presume she
I'm
either
just
wants to
saying,
be called
like,
Jenny or Jennifer.
I'm just saying you're going back and forth. Like you're saying Jen one minute and Jennifer the other minute. It's just like
yeah, but last time I said Jen, you corrected me, and now you're scolding me.
no, I didn't
for-
correct you. I was asking you. I
No,
was
no,
like,
but you made this point earlier. I absorbed the point and decided I totally agreed that saying Jen did not immediately make sense. And now that I'm calling
I don't
her
know. I don't remember
Jennifer,
saying that.
You're scolding me
I don't-
and derailing the podcast.
all I remember is saying earlier is what I remember is you said Jen earlier, and I was like, "What Jen? Her name is Jen. I thought it was Jennifer." And you're like, "No, dude, it's Jen." I was like, "Oh,
No. Okay, half of that is made up.
Play back the tape.
It sounds made up.
Play back the tape."
I'm just the audience. The audience can come to their own conclusions. They will have had a better comprehension of what we've said during the course of this conversation than either of us will have had. Right? 'Cause
We'll
we're
have
in
had.
the moment. Yeah, we'll have had because we are in the moment. Right?
We are in the moment.
We are
I'm,
in the. We're right now. We're doing
You
it.
say things that are words.
All right. So the Mariner and her blue girlfriend. Is that better? Is that
Say whatever you want.
me?
I'm not going to correct you.
I mean, do you, I don't want to use the term dehumanize because I think that's offensive. De-Andorianize. I don't want to de-Andorianize her by just referring to her as the blue girlfriend.
depersonify.
Blue. Depersonify is somewhat generic. That works.
Yeah.
That works better than de-Andorianize.
Yeah,
It's not as fun
de-Andorianize.
as saying de-Andorianize.
De-Andorianize.
Yeah,
I've got de-Andorianize.
Pardon me. Do you have any de-Andorianize?
That was one of the Three
great
Musketeers.
Yeah, de-Andorianize.
Okay.
Yes, we're funny.
Yeah, but there's like 4 characters in the Three Musketeers.
I know. There's 4 of them.
It's always drove me nuts. It's like the Three Musketeers. I know why it's called the Three
What a
Musketeers,
stupid
but like
book.
there's 4 of them. There's fucking 4 of them.
I know. I can't.
There's
think of
like-
the 4 fucking.
Caramon and Darnell and like Cremulus or something.
Creme brulee.
Creme brulee. Okay.
What were the Three Musketeers'
Dr.
names?
Faustus.
What were the Three Musketeers' names?
It doesn't matter. We're
doesn't-
talking.
we're not talking about that.
Well, you
shit,
started
man.
you started talking about Three Musketeers. I was like, what was their names? You don't know either.
I'm not. I would never offer that information. Never mind. I was just commenting on the 3-4 Musketeers.
And I was just commenting on trying to remember the names.
and we don't remember the names. So
Sometimes you can get the one that's like chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry.
okay, no, we're being all organized this week.
I don't like Three
We're super
Musketeers
organized.
chocolate bars. They're weird.
That is weird.
Well, it used to
prefer
have
a Milky Way if
Well,
I'm
the
gonna
Three
have something
Musketeers
like that.
chocolate bar used to have 3 flavors, and then during World War II,
Yeah.
they made it just to the nougat flavor.
Yeah.
So it is a lie.
It's a lie.
It's been a lie
The
since
candy's a lie.
Well, it's the same thing with Twinkies. Used to have banana cream in them instead of that vanilla cream.
Well, I'm glad they switched to vanilla cream.
No, the banana cream
What's
back in the
wrong
day
with you?
with the
Yuck.
real
What's wrong with
like
you?
real proper fake banana flavor.
No.
Okay, Star Trek Lower Decks season 3.
Trek.
Do you like
Episode
banana
6.
Slurpees?
Twinkie dicks.
Yeah, bananas, they're fine.
They're
Yeah,
fine.
man.
Yeah, they're good.
Did you say Twinkie dicks, Jesse? Did you say Twinkie dicks?
I didn't say that.
Jesse said Twinkie dicks.
Decks.
Oh, Twinkie. That doesn't
Twinkie
make
decks?
it. That doesn't make any more sense to me.
As in Star Trek Lower Decks.
Twinkie Decks? You said Twinkie Decks.
No, I didn't.
It's like a
Who said Twinkie?
It's like a Pokedex except for Twinks. Gotta catch them all.
man.
All right. Woo. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Star Trek. Welcome to Star Trek.
Welcome to Star Trek. Okay, we're talking about
Kids love the Star. They like the traveling around in the space.
when Mariner Mariner was like, I'm not bossy, and they all like laughed at her. They were like, ha ha ha. It was weird.
They did the walking away laugh.
Yeah, they did the walking.
That's a good one, boss.
It was such a goofy little part where they were like, hey Jennifer, when they were doing that whole thing. That was funny and weird, and they were like, and then they were laughing at her walking away.
And she was in Mariner's bunk.
But they were both in uniform, in full uniform.
Yeah, they were getting.
Funny.
You just beam your uniform on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
But the animation, I want to comment on the animation because after they
Do you
laughed.
want to comment?
Yes, I want to make a comment.
Yes,
I want to. For once in my life, I want to make a comment about something. So when they said
Will this be the only time?
when they were laughing at her and she was saying like, I'm not bossy, and they laughed and walked away, you notice she like ducked her head. She was all like, oh. But like if you look at it, it weirdly it looks super computer animated, like because the head is like perfectly sliding downwards. You know how like so you can tell they took they tween. If there was flash animation, it would have been a tween. They would have tweened the head from point A to point B, and the head ducks down and the shoulders go up, and it looks like all computer animated, which it probably is in that part. I'm wondering how much of that is computer animated.
It's all computer animated.
It's all
You
computer
lost me,
animated.
man. You lost me.
But like it was just
I'm talking about tweens.
But I was
We went from Twinkies to Tweens.
We went from twinks to
oh
tweens.
man. Put that in context, please. Just saying, like it was very apparent to me. I just noticed it was very apparent the computeriness of that transition.
Computer.
I will go back and watch it. I will come to a conclusion. I'll call you up or text you or WhatsApp you. I'm not going to call you
You're
up.
not going to fucking call me up.
Realistically,
I would seriously be like, "What's wrong, dude?"
Is everything okay, Patrick? Do you need help?
was most apparent.
Okay. Anything in particular about this plot? I'll tell you one thing. I like this plot for growing Mariner's character a little bit via the relationship with Jen. It was somewhat predictable in the sense that you were going to expect that Mariner's going to be worried about this, having to interact with these people.
Yeah, that was a classic sort of gag.
It was going to go one of two ways. Either it was going to go, Jen was like super happy that Mariner was like willing to, Jen knowing Mariner's personality would take Mariner's attempt at hanging out with these obnoxious friends as evidence that Mariner's really into her, right? Like I could see it going that way. Or the other way was the way it sort of resolved in this plot where Jen is like, no, I love that you're different, and like I think it'd be funny for you to fuck with my friends a little bit.
And she kind of takes it a step further because she just ends up shooting everybody.
Yeah.
She just starts raging on. She rampages around the room. It shows her like running
totally
by.
Shoots
it
everybody.
does that scene where it shows her run by the screen and like laughing, like shooting. Ah! I don't even know if she was laughing, but it felt like that's the energy I got. As she starts zapping everybody,
I wouldn't want to have Mariner come after me.
like that. That seems like that she kind of overreacted in that situation.
Okay,
I know it's a joke.
Look, the gag was good. The gag
It was funny,
The gag
yeah.
that you have.
the gag was good.
People, you have an enclosed space in which there are a number of people, and where the amount of oxygen in the enclosed space is going to be depleting.
Do you know why it was depleting?
Yes, because of the candles.
It was
they cut that shit
the
off.
it was the Impulian candles that eat twice the oxygen. Now, do you think eating twice the oxygen would really cause that much of a problem?
Yes, it would. Like it's known that having a candle in
It's
an enclosed
space,
space
man.
uses up oxygen.
I know-
Fire uses oxygen.
Well, yes, I know that's basic, but I'm saying like in that big room,
They
that
shouldn't have even been allowed to
I'm
make
sure that
candles on
room-
a fucking spaceship.
All
in
right,
the first
I'm
place.
sure that big room had some kind of ventilation system.
No, but everything was off. The idea is the ship is
And
out
well-
of power. Look, I get that. I
It's
don't
a
have
big
a problem.
room.
No,
It's a
but
big
I don't have.
room.
Let me make my point.
There should be
I don't
no
have
candles
I don't
in
have any
space.
problem with any of
No
that.
candles in space.
I don't have a problem with the setup. I don't have any problem with the gag, which I thought was funny, which was, yes, unconscious people are going to use less oxygen. That's true. It is better to be unconscious and use less oxygen, than give somebody some anesthesia or something. In this case, stun them. So it's a funny little scene that I'm all fine with. What I found personally was a bit of a stretch was the idea that all these other Starfleet officers would be freaking out the way they were.
Right.
I wish there was like a different route they took to getting Mariner to do that shooting everybody gag. Like maybe they just they had a moment where the when Mariner was trying to blow out the candles, and the one officer was saying, she grabbed it away, saying like, no, but these are our intentions that we put into these candles, because they're doing some sort of candle magic ceremony.
Maybe because they were out of uniform.
If they had pushed that more, I just found it on the other hand, if they had pushed that more, you'd get aggravated that Starfleet officers were using candle magic, perhaps. I don't know that should be a problem, but I could see people having a problem with that. I just found I found it a little bit, I don't know. I was like, okay, watching this room full of people like be all like freaking out, and it's in a minor emergency I know this is not like the cream of the crop of Starfleet, but previously they've always reiterated that these are competent people, right? One thing Lower Decks has been good at is showing that you get some characters, you get some wild people, for the most part, though, that they're not complete morons. And this was leaning a little bit into that slapsticky, like, oh my god, we're going crazy. It worked in the context of the plot. It took me out of it a little bit.
Speaking of the slapstick, it sort of got capped off by when they sort of when they shot themselves, because I know the reason they gave, but the reason they gave didn't really make a lot of sense, because it's a bad look that we're here and they're passed out. Well, it's not like it prevented it from happening. The people who got stunned are still gonna
know that you stunned them.
It's not like an inquiry.
Yeah, they're still gonna be like, what happened? And they're gonna be like, she stunned us.
I think the argument.
I don't want to take
going to the bridge.
I don't want to take the whole thing too seriously, but at the same time, it's like, why bother to stun yourself at all in that situation? They only stun themselves as like a cap to the joke.
I disagree. I disagree in the sense that I think that they didn't do it properly, because they simply it worked better writing wise. So I do know why they did it. But
why did you talk to one of the writers?
No, just from the writing structure, I get what gag they were trying to go for, and it works. But the problem is they could have simply said, we also need to be unconscious to use less oxygen. That's a perfectly reasonable conclusion.
Well, okay, yes, that would be reasonable.
There's nothing wrong with that, but they didn't go that way. They went for the joke that makes less sense.
No, that's what I'm saying. That whole thing felt like a cap to the whole.
Exactly.
That's what I was just saying. Is it felt like a cap to the whole slapstick joke.
And they didn't. I'm just saying that they didn't have to do that because they had this other previously mentioned reason to do it.
I didn't even really catch the part where they said, and it makes sense, but I didn't really catch the part where they said, let's knock them out so they use less oxygen. I don't remember them
Mariner
actually saying.
States that's what she's talking about with the candle. She's like, and she says, you know what? You use less oxygen if you're unconscious, and then she zaps Castro.
I do remember them saying about the oxygen issue. That's why I had the whole problem with the idea that these few candles are going to use up all the oxygen in the room. I think it would take a lot longer to do that.
That was the only thing that I found to be a bit of a stretch. Otherwise, I did enjoy the whole concept of, because Castro is a character who's designed to be obnoxious. This is an obnoxious person.
Oh yeah, that's Castro. I forgot that was Castro.
Yeah, she's been in episodes before.
Was she in the red shirt?
Yeah, she was in the red shirt hanging out.
Her and Jen were in the red shirts. Yeah.
Jennifer.
You said Jen last time.
You just said Jen.
No one said
Jen. No, you said Jen
fool.
like 5 minutes ago when you were in the midst of talking about Jen. You said Jen.
Then I was wrong.
It was in the context of the discussion because you had said Jen.
Yeah.
Patrick said Jen, then he said Jennifer, then he went back to Jen. Now he just said Jennifer, and he corrected me on saying Jen.
I don't think there was ever a Jen. There was a Jenny.
Jenny.
No, a Jenny.
Okay, the Kobayashi Maroon.
What's the matter? Got cough, got cold?
That was funny. The Kobayashi Maroon joke.
Oh yeah, right. That was
yeah.
And then it made me think that Mariner sitting there is going through her own Kobayashi Maru, just enduring this social interaction.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a no-win scenario.
I don't know if they meant to do this or if this is from something else, but when she was doing the dance where she did that thing where she was clapping her hands above her head, that's exactly looks like what the character Dalsim from Street Fighter 2 does. He does that as his victory dance. He like moves back and forth and claps his hands above his head, and that looked exactly like what she was doing to me, anyways. Now I'm wondering if both of those grabbed it from somewhere else, or if this day was just a weird coincidence, or I don't know.
Dan, when you do your It's Got Video Games podcast, you should do a whole episode just on video game dance moves throughout the ages.
Whoa. That'd be pretty funny. Yeah. That'd be pretty good.
Going up to Fortnite.
That would
start with like Donkey Kong.
That would work best as like something you watch though.
Well, then do a YouTube channel.
What if I watch you watch it?
I think I'm better at bringing up random video game facts like unrelated on the side.
I honestly, and with full sincerity, think that you would do an excellent job doing some hilariously in-depth research for like a half hour of like intense content.
Intense
It would
content.
be like really intense video game content.
Oh man.
I highly encourage you.
That's what I would love that if I could
go
make a
in as-
podcast that was just so intense that people were like, it made people tired. They were just
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I could listen.
I'm glad this only comes out once a week.
Yeah, right.
What if we took turns interrogating you and like
Oh,
you
man.
all could give us the answers about
Whoa,
like
Yeah.
that's fucked up.
It's
about
got,
about video
it's got
games.
interrogation.
Well,
we would interrogate you about video games and you'd be like, well, yeah, okay.
yeah, okay, guys.
Altered Beast.
The
Altered Beast.
only other
Fuck
thing
that
I wanted
game.
to say about this particular plot line was that about that scene where Mariner and Jen, where Mariner stuns them both, is in a very minor way. It had sort of like a Romeo and Juliet imagery to it, which I don't think was I mean, Romeo and Juliet, they each kill themselves.
Spoiler alert.
What a bunch of dummies.
Yeah, that play came out in like 16,
I know.
16
That was ridiculous. I was being silly.
but
I was using silly humor.
I'm sure some people would still consider it and be like, well, you should put spoilers in the title. You shouldn't put spoilers in the title of the post. But there was an imagery there of them sort of falling together, embraced, kind of.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Anything else about that particular plot line?
Particular plot line. Particular plot line.
Or should we move
I
on?
don't know nothing
Move
about
along?
that.
You want to move along home?
Move
Move along home?
I don't think I want to talk about that particular
Move
plot
along home
line
to
anymore.
Tendy and Mesk.
Well, we're gonna talk
Oh,
about.
wait,
can we talk about? Can we talk about? Can we talk about the voice I'm doing first?
No.
I'd really rather not.
I'd rather not.
really
Okay.
rather not talk.
There
I don't want to
was-
hear that voice ever
When
again.
Mariner showed up at that party and like everybody was wearing like goofy like sweatshirts and stuff.
With the Ritos shirt.
And then like she took that whole pitcher of like
Oh, yeah.
space alcohol
Space House.
and she poured it into her cup. Like she poured the whole pitcher and, just, and somehow it just fit into
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
cup.
it's like a Doctor Who / Mary
Yeah.
Poppins
Yeah.
cup.
I liked how she just as she's pouring it, she's taking so long to pour it. Eventually, she just starts staring at her.
Yeah,
like as it's filling, she's like, "You'll need a lot of
and
this."
the other girl, it was Castro, and she was just like, "What are you doing?"
What I liked was
Yeah.
they had Castro was wearing a Starfleet Delta sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And then one of the other officers was wearing a Starfleet Delta tank.
And somebody had like a Ritos.
Yeah, the
Ritos.
Ritos.
Did you say a Delta tank like a tank top?
Yeah, a tank top.
Yeah.
No, who calls them tanks?
I think that's what everyone calls them now. You call them a tank, you call it a tee, you don't call it
people,
a t-shirt.
People call it
What?
wife beaters.
Kids these days are in a hurry. Let me tell you, they're in a fucking hurry. So
There's a lot going on.
You know,
That's not a T-shirt. It's a Z-shirt.
Oh no.
Look up that SNL sketch.
Yes.
It's with what's his name?
Tim Robinson.
Tim Robinson.
and then he also has that tummy tuggers. Tum tuggers.
Yeah.
That's
But the SNL Z-shirt sketch with Tim Robinson and Kevin Hart.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's so silly.
a good
It's
one.
one of my favorites.
All right, but I hope
If you think it's funny,
I hope they make some of those.
check it out.
Those I just like that simple Starfleet Delta, like a big giant Starfleet
Yeah,
Delta.
yeah.
Like I'd be down to buy some of that moich. So are you
Moich.
listening? Are you listening? StarTrek.com or at Star Trek on Paramount
We want
Plus.
stuff.
But the Ritos shirts are like the like on Discovery.
Well,
They
like
have
on
the one that's
Discovery,
like
yeah.
it says
Always makes
disco and I guess it has hovering
Yeah.
on the back.
And on,
Always makes
on
me-
Strange New Worlds, it just says enter.
Yeah.
It always makes me think of Doritos. It doesn't make me think of Fritos. It makes me think of Doritos.
I know, right?
Fritos or Fritos? Is it plural? I'm asking. I don't know. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm not being an asshole.
Just asking a question.
Dan's just fucking staring at me.
I'm not trying to stir the pot.
Is it Frito or is it Frito? But like you get a bag of Fritos, or is it Fritos?
Are you talking
Well,
about
it's the same as Doritos.
Like foot digits.
Or
Like
Free toes.
no, you're talking about bugles. Do you ever put bugles on your fingers?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and then eat them up. Bugles. Bugles. Is that plural?
What?
Is that plural?
That's from
Bugles,
that was my
plural.
No, but that was remember 4 Rooms with what's that guy's name?
Yes, Tim Roth.
Tim Roth.
Yeah,
Oh.
plural.
He goes, yeah. He's like me. He goes plural.
Tim Roth.
Plural.
4 Rooms is a great little film.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's good. Wee, wee, wee,
Yeah. He's just like freaking out the whole movie. It's awesome.
That is great. The Antonio Banderas one segment is particularly good. All right, everyone, go watch Four Rooms.
We recommend.
I think Fritos is plural, just like Doritos, and Bugles is.
Okay. All right.
What do you think?
I understand what you're serving me, and I'm going to eat it right up.
You're gonna eat it right up.
Just gobble it right up.
Well, you guys have any thoughts?
About what?
Saltines.
What was the question?
About the plural. You asked the question originally.
Oh, no. I thought we were
About
getting back to
plural.
the Star Trek
Okay,
business.
let's get back to Star Trek.
We're being good this week. We're trying to minimize digressions,
We're not being good.
maximize commentary that is focused on the topic that we've advertised in the podcast feed.
See, we're getting there. We're getting
Doing a pretty good job. All right, let's talk about Tendi and Musk.
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 You're talking about pheromones, Orion pheromones.
All right, so I thought this was another fun, pretty straightforward plot line. It was also somewhat predictable. I thought though, even though it was somewhat predictable, it had a lot of value in helping grow the character of Tendi. Or we learn more about her. She learns a little bit more about herself. However, as soon as I saw that mess guy, I was like, okay, they're doing like a Worf / Spock thing where the guy is like raised on Earth or something and is like leaning hard into the whole Orion stereotype thing, right? Similar to, I mean, really, Worf is the good example of that. And that did indeed turn out to be the case. However, it worked. It worked really well. He did all the stereotypical nonsense. He was just a tryhard. You could tell he was just trying so hard to be like, hey, what kind of stuff have you stolen, Tendi?
And
I got a religious exemption for my goobly guy, whatever his little tool, Orion pirate tool thing.
Right.
multi-key.
I like when he threw it. He was when Tendi. So the funny thing in the end, of course, is that the guy who talks all the shit doesn't know shit. But Tendi is
Well,
actually,
the counterpoint is Tendi, who has been shown to be he's trying to take on the Orion culture.
That's what I was
and
just.
Tendi is
That's what I was just about to say.
in opposition to it.
That's what I was. Well,
He took it from you and said it instead.
That's what I was just about to say.
Oh,
was
okay.
that
Rewind. You say it. I apologize.
No, I was saying like he was trying to talk all the. I'm gonna say what you just said.
All right.
He was trying to talk all this shit about how he knew shit, but he didn't know shit. And it turns out Tendi was the one who actually knew the shit, but she's the one who's actually trying to reject it, whereas he's trying to overly embrace it and talk like he knows
At the very
game.
least, she's trying to distance.
She's trying to distance herself, right?
from that.
Distance herself, but she actually is the real deal. That was an awesome flying knee she gave that dude when she like fucking flying knee to the face of that dude, and she
took
threw
his tooth.
And she took his tooth and she threw the Orion,
multi-key.
the multi-key, and he was like, "Wow, you did that with a wine opener," which is which is kind of funny because there actually is a tool that like a lot of servers use. It's a wine key where it's a multi-tool for opening wine. It's got like it's got a little knife and a little
And
other
then like
thing. It's got all these things on
Rutherford
it.
says something about like, oh, you took his tooth out with that or something. Like that.
Yeah. So he's got a wine. And then it's kind of funny because also like on a Swiss Army knife, there's always like some kind of bottle opener or wine opener.
Yeah.
It's like everything always has to have a corkscrew or some shit on it.
The business with Tendi also is sort of a reconfirmation of stuff we've seen a little bit before. There was that episode, Veritas, right? Is the one where she's doing that secret spy mission, right?
Yeah.
When in Romulan, on like a Romulan base, and she's kicking all this ass. And at that time, the joke was they were like, "Oh, you were just supposed to like open the door or something."
Right.
She ended up kicking all the guards' asses, and it's been hinted at again a couple times. One most overtly, I think, in that episode, we'll always have Tom Paris, which is when she and Mariner end up on an Orion outpost, and she's acting all super tough.
Right,
So this is an extending on that, but in this case, this is sort of her most she volunteers to do it in this case, whereas in the other cases, it was more being pressured into it one way or the other, you know?
There's that one dude that like sees her coming in and just runs and like jumps.
Yeah, because she makes that pirate face. He's all like, "Rah!" And he just screams and jumps over the edge.
Tendi is like, so Rutherford was like super like happy like a kid the whole time, like how he wanted to dangle his feet off the edge of the thing or whatever. And Tendi normally is like that too, right? But this is the only time Tendi
That
is
dude
like
really got on her nerves.
the only time Tendi is ever like negative about something. It's when it has to do with like stereotypes about like Orion culture.
Well, it's
and
two
stuff.
things, because
and also not just stereotypes, but when people from her culture like
The actual culture.
enforce the
I find it one of the most interesting things about Tendi is that they could have easily just stuck to the whole like she's offended by and trying to fight against stereotypes about Orions, but they've made it more complex and layered by, yes, she wants to do that, but she also has her own problems with actual Orion culture and society that she's trying to reject. And we keep learning more little tidbits. Here it's more overtly stated that her family is not only pirates, but high up in the Orion Syndicate. I think they mention her father, right? Like, and so that leaves open like some really awesome possibilities for storytelling in the future. Like, I hope we meet her family one day.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And have some fun Orion Syndicate shenanigans. There's a lot of stuff they could do there. They've been doing fun stuff with the Orion Syndicate going back to like Deep Space Nine was really when they started like expanding on that. Like Honor Among Thieves is a fucking brilliant classic episode. So yeah, I'm excited about all that Tendi stuff, and I thought this was a real fun way to portray it in this particular storyline. And in the background of having Deep Space Nine and the Kurama thing, it's a different vibe than it would have been if an Orion ensign showed up on the Cerritos, for example, or on a starbase.
So Mesk, at first I was listening to his voice, I was like, that sounds like Dane Cook or something, but it's Adam Pally. That's what you say. Can we do that again at the same time? Adam Pally.
It wasn't as good as the first time.
Adam Pally. Adam. Okay.
That was silly.
Adam Pally, he played the voice, and he had like some kind of wannabe like pirate ponytail. Like even his ponytail was all super wannabe. And he was from Cincinnati. Mesk, did you ever? So it's Mesk from Cincinnati. Do you ever remember that show on Showtime?
John from
Cincinnati.
I didn't watch it.
I watched like a few episodes, and then there was one episode it like got like a little bit too much for me, and I was like, I don't really.
What was it about? Was it about a guy? Was he an alien?
I think so.
I think he was like an alien or from the future or something.
It was. I didn't get that far. But
write into feedback at itsgotstartrek.com and let us know what John from Cincinnati was about.
I think
what happens in Cincinnati?
I think they were.
They
got chili.
I think they were trying. I think they were trying to do some kind of like John from Cincinnati, JC. I think they were trying to do some Jesus Christ imagery thing with it.
No.
Oh, was he Jesus?
I don't know because I only watched like 4 or 5 episodes. But he came down. He was this weirdo that came down from who knows where, and he got
from heaven on high.
And he got in people's lives, and he affected people's lives. I feel like there was some kind of Jesus
Quantum
thing
Leap?
going on.
It was Quantum Leap?
Sounds
No,
like Jesus.
That was actually Jesus who did that. But there was an episode that got a little bit, and I don't know. You'd have to watch it, I guess. But it was weird, and I'm
not gonna watch.
And I wasn't.
We're not gonna
I
watch
wasn't
it.
specifically like I'm not gonna watch this show anymore. It's just I lost. Do you ever do that where you kind of are watching a show and then one episode comes along and you don't purposefully stop watching? You just kind of find you just.
So how about
stop
this?
Watching.
Tweet us at It's Got Star Trek on Twitter. Tweet us and let us know whether John from Cincinnati was an alien or if he was Jesus.
I think alien. Jesus was an alien.
We can't like watch the show, but we would like to know.
Yeah.
We would like to know for future reference in case it ever comes up again.
Yeah, because we
on
know
the podcast. We would like to be speaking from some amount of
because it was such a popular
authority.
show that anyone listening to the show
Can't have been that popular, right?
No, it was not.
Oh, you're being sarcastic.
I was being sarcastic. Yeah,
That was good.
It was good.
That was a good level of sarcasm.
So
if you've ever been to Cincinnati, you can write us too.
Yeah, I've been to.
I hear Cincinnati's pretty chill.
I've been to Toledo.
Yeah, I've been to Dayton. I'm in Columbus.
I've been to Cleveland.
Apparently, they like their chili in
Cleveland's
Cincinnati.
cool.
Cincinnati's
It was not cool.
Cincinnati likes their chili.
Yeah, I said that earlier.
No, you didn't.
I did.
On this episode?
Yeah,
Oh.
you're gonna be really embarrassed when you listen to
You're
that.
gonna be really embarrassed. You're gonna be really embarrassed. I probably will be. So I want to see these lyrics of this super awesome song.
Super Soaker?
It was where it's cold and dark in the void of space, Orion's take from every race.
Yeah.
And 40 slaves to serve our days, and we'll kill you all in your cots. I don't know what cots was supposed to rhyme with.
Yeah. I know. Maybe maybe in the original language or Orion language, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, how do they do that? Sometimes they make them rhyme anyways when they translate them. They must take some artistic liberty with that.
Take some definite artistic liberty.
That's why you should never read anything in translation.
Yeah, you have to learn the language.
Like you should
Original
read the
language,
Bible in
always.
Hebrew or whatever.
Aramaic.
I don't give a fuck about the Bible. Don't read the
Greek.
fucking Bible, dude.
Greek.
You should never read the Bible.
No, I counterpoint. I think everyone should read the Bible.
I'm just playing. You
Come
should
to your
read
own
what-
conclusion.
Yes, read
Yeah.
whatever book you want to read. Read all books.
Okay. Time for another break, and then we'll just wrap things up, finish things up for this week. on the It's Got Star Trek podcast. Does that sound good to both of you guys?
I could go for that.
All right. We'll be right back.
And we're back.
All right. Okay, I guess we're back.
What if we weren't?
Oh no, we're not ready.
No, it's a fine Jesse. Jesse's,
It's a fine Jesse. It's a fine Jesse.
It's a fine Jesse.
It's a fine Jesse.
You've got a fine Jesse there.
What
It'd
was
be a shame if anything happened to it.
What was the deal with like? Okay, so Boimler has like that clutch, and he's like, "This is a clutch." Then the little Ferengi guy thinks it's a coin purse, and he thinks he doesn't have that much money. And then it turns out that he doesn't have any money at all at the end, and like it seems like the Ferengi guy was expecting that like he had money, and he's like, "Well, the Federation doesn't use.
He won
money.
all the money.
Of course, it doesn't use.
Well, he won. He had to have money to win money.
Maybe they credited him some.
Yeah, maybe they credited.
Maybe they tossed him a couple chips.
They credited it out.
And then they credited it in.
They credited in.
I did all that bold Boimler stuff, and clearly this is leading to something. I don't know what is leading to. Presumably, at the end of this season, this will come to some sort of conclusion.
He'll get stuck in an airlock.
some strange will happen to him. But it is fun. We already mentioned the hair being slicked back, and just the whole like all the sounds of the Dabo table and all that stuff. That was just.
Or those some of the people at the party were interested in Boimler. They're like, let's talk Boimler.
You know, and this is another episode where the girls are into Boimler. And Jennifer's friends,
because those raisin girls were all in
and the raisin, and that's an interesting thing because now that the second time at least we've seen that this season, and then he had that Gillian Jacobs played his girlfriend. What was her name? Barb? Yeah. Barb in that episode in season 2. But in that case, she had had
a parasite.
She had a brain-altering parasite. So I don't know if that's just they're having a little fun here and there. Like it's just always funny when like the geeky nerdy guy, like all the girls are into him.
Dude.
Yeah, and he's got that purple hair.
Purple hair, yeah.
We don't know what color the color of his real hair is, of course.
Yeah.
Do the carpets match the curtains?
Yeah, you got to find out.
It's the drapes, isn't it? Do the carpets match the drapes? I guess curtains works. Drapes is a little more poetic.
Curtains.
I always heard do the carpets match the drapes?
But curtains is more alliterative.
Do the carpets match the curtains? Yeah, but it's a divided alliteration
because it's not.
Because you have match in the middle. Do the curtains match? Do the carpets match the curtains?
No, but that's not the important part.
It's just because you speak in English doesn't mean you have to be alliterative.
Well, I know you don't have
alliteration
to.
by definition.
No, but it's repeating. It's
repeating letters.
Well, it's repeating the words that would be rhymed in a song or whatever. Like if you were to rhyme two words, if the classic move would be to rhyme curtains and carpets if it was a song. So in lieu of rhyming with each other, you make them alliterative.
Okay, but but they're not alliterative because you have the word match.
No, but that's not part of it.
It's a divided alliteration.
No, it's not, because curtains and carpets are nouns and match is a verb.
Do the curtains match the drapes? I think that match.
You're
and
making
the
shit up. You're making shit up.
The match and the drape.
No, because look, curtains and carpets are the nouns.
Curtains and carpets.
Match.
It's like a store at the local strip
curtains
mall.
And
Come on down to curtains and carpets.
Yeah, they wouldn't call it the curtains.
What are you
they wouldn't call it
about?
the carpets and drapes. Look, the curtains and carpets are
come down to curtains and carpets where the carpets match the drapes.
Look,
that's the
curtains. The curtains and carpets are nouns. Match is a verb. That's why it's not that.
I mean, that's why you're saying it's still alliterative.
It is alliterative.
I'm not arguing that it is not
You
alliterative.
can't argue that just because part of the sentence isn't alliterative, then it's only semi-alliterative.
Look, okay, let's back up.
It's on a case-by-case basis.
You're like a grammar lawyer.
Patrick is just a grammar lawyer over here. I just made a comment and he's like, no, actually it's not because of blah 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 I just made up.
I think you might just be making an assumption that there's a critique here when there wasn't a critique.
I'm not saying there was a critique. I'm just saying you told me I was wrong.
No, I didn't. Yes, initially.
You did.
Not initially. My argument was not that this is not that carpets match the curtains is not alliterative. It's not strictly speaking alliterative. It's a divided alliteration, which is still alliterative.
It's a little bit creepy.
I am
divided
arguing
alliteration. That's not even a thing.
I am arguing a subjective point, which is I think that the curtains match the carpets, alliteration, divided alliteration.
Divided alliteration isn't even a thing. You're just making terms up. You just made that up.
It's poetic.
It sounds like
I think it's more poetic.
You're saying it as if it's some kind of
curtains match
You're
the
saying it
drapes.
as if it's some kind of vocab term or something.
I think
like I'm
that's
going to
what
look it up in
is.
a glossary and find
is.
it.
I think it is.
I'm just, we're just,
I think he majored in English.
I did major in English
So
when it comes to music
so
stuff.
that just means
I'll
he's
leave it to
better.
you.
So that just means he's better at fooling people.
I mean, you're not far wrong in terms of the careers of people with English degrees. Let me tell you, boy, I'll tell you what.
I tell you what.
All right.
All right.
Odds and ends. Any final odds and ends about? There are a couple things like I did like the line about the Orion stories. That the ones with the boobs on the cover.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was funny.
Because you can immediately evoke images of that. Certainly, if you are a puerile, booby loving person, you can imagine what those types of fantasy
Not a
covers would
Purell
look like.
booby loving person. That's totally different.
Was that a COVID joke?
No, I didn't mean it for
The cat doctor was drinking that wine out of the glass like a cat. She was
Oh, I
just
didn't even
licking
notice
it
that.
out
Yeah,
of
she's
the
laughing.
wine.
I missed that.
She was like a
all-
wine flute. And she was just drinking.
Ew, that was
Oh.
cute. I only saw that.
was
I only
cute.
caught that on the second watch.
Yeah, it was just you just saw it for a little bit.
What did they give him? I missed that part. What did they give the Karema or whatever? What did they give him as their present?
Bunch
It
of alcohol.
It was that's all they said. It was alcohol.
I think they were going to give that to him anyway.
It was
And
like
that was-
Andorian ale and they had a bunch of the what was that? What did the Karema? Because they were dealing in like Tullaberry wine or something on D-Space 9. So like I think it was Tullaberry wine.
And that Admiral guy had that little miniature Alamo on the shelf.
Are you talking about
from Texas?
Are you talking about Admiral Goodfriend?
Maybe he was from Mexico. And
was his
like,
name
he was
Admiral
like
Goodfriend?
Yeah, Buen Amigo.
Oh, Buen Amigo.
Yeah, good friend.
See, Goodfriend would make me think it was like a South African name or something, or Zimbabwean.
Zimbabwean,
Yeah, Zimbabwean.
Botswanian, Botswanan.
A park in Botswana. George W. Bush, a park in Botswana. YouTube.
Check it out.
Check it
Thank
out.
us by writing
If
us
you
on
don't
Twitter
already know.
or at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com. The Orion script, the language, if I recall correctly, I think that first started on Enterprise because Orions go back to the cage, right? Like the original unaired Star Trek pilot.
it's on the
Orions,
cage.
as in green people.
Green peeps.
Green peeps.
There was
Specifically,
Some people talk about green peeps. We're talking about green peeps.
subjugated green women. That started
that was in the cage.
the very first episode of Star Trek ever, and has continued sporadically here and there since TOS, TAS. Then not so much for a little while, and then Enterprise, Discovery, etc. We get to see a lot more Orion.
Why wasn't it the men who were subjugated?
Well, we learn in Discovery that the men are also subjugated.
Well, yeah, that's
Enterprise.
they are. That's we learned that.
No,
we
in,
learned.
Discovery.
in Enterprise.
Discovery.
In Enterprise, and that ridiculous episode Bound is when we learn about the whole it's the Rick Berman the women have pheromones that control all the
Right.
men.
Right, and so,
Which Tandy keeps bringing up. She's mentioned multiple times.
Yeah,
she's like,
she's-
not
yeah,
all
there's
Orions
been a
have
bunch
that.
of
yeah,
that,
she said that in this
yeah.
episode. Well, right, and so that's
She's
so.
always like, I'm not that kind of Orion.
Well, and that's what the thing is. People always say is talk about how actually the women are the dominant sex or whatever.
That goes back to our conversation about the part of the Twitter that you don't want to go
Yeah,
on.
right.
Because there are people who latched onto that when the Enterprise episode was released, and despite subsequent canon, but despite previous canon not mentioning the hormone thing and subsequent canon adjusting that lore to indicate that it is not a universal thing, regardless, it's not exactly as it was portrayed on Enterprise. They nevertheless are holding on to that specific representation because that's an issue that some people have is they
Convenient for their arguments.
yes, exactly. They pick and choose the canonical evidence that suits them, and then they just declare other things are not canon. All right, little preview of our future conversation about the bad side of Star Trek fandom.
Oh my stars.
Oh my stars! What was that from?
Oh my God, it's full of stars.
he said
that's
he-
from 2010: A Space Odyssey.
No, who?
Boimler says, "Oh my stars." They
In this
have
episode?
they have Dabo.
Oh.
They've got Dabo.
Oh, did he say "Oh my stars"?
He said, "Oh my stars."
Oh, I missed that. I love "Oh my
He
stars."
also referred to himself as the Dabo King.
Yeah. For some reason, I was reminded when Kira was chasing Quark around at the end. I think it was the DS9 episode called "Invasive Procedures." It was the one where Jadzia. there was the Verad or whatever. They were trying. There was some guy,
no, that
and he was forcing Bashir to take Jadzia's symbiont out and give it to him.
Yeah,
and
Give me that wine. I want that wine in my belly.
And if I'm thinking of the correct episode,
this is my wine.
Here's my worm in my belly. Give me my worm in my belly.
No, I want her worm in my belly.
I'm gonna go from your belly to this other guy's
But
It was your worm, but now it's my
If I'm
worm.
remembering the correct episode, I need to watch it again to confirm, not deny.
Confirm.
Quark was especially egregious. He was especially egregious in that episode because he actually helped the Verad and this crew aboard the station.
Oh yeah,
Because they bribed him and he let him go, and because he let him on the station, that put Jadzia in this whole problem. And I seem to remember him in the whole episode just causing problems in the whole episode.
Yeah.
Till by the end of it, he legitimately could have been arrested and executed for treason.
Oh, totally.
And it was
they always give that guy a pass.
Right, I know, and this was the most sort of
problem is he replicates the best root beer.
right.
This side of the
Gamma quadrant, or
he's got all those holodeck
galaxy.
things.
But the thing is I always liked that how Quark got into trouble. But this episode was almost like, wow, you guys are really kind of pushing it to the edge of what should be allowed in DS9. What should be? You shouldn't allow that in DS9. I just thought it was a particularly over the top Quark episode, and
it's a good one.
it was a good one though. No complaints. It was no complaints. It was just Quark was being super Quark, and that's what I thought about when Kira was chasing him at the end.
Was there any significance to the stardate mentioned in that one woman's poem?
Well, this episode started on stardate 58456.2.
The one where she's like, the Enterprise was in me or something.
Did she mention
I
a
don't know if that's
stardate?
a poem or if it's some sort of enthusiastic reading of something.
Was Castro? I forget. Was Castro previously posted to the Enterprise?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I can't. So she said
maybe so.
She says that really I wasn't in the Enterprise. The Enterprise was in me all along.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Was that
thank you.
stardate a?
She didn't give it. Oh wait. Oh, she
Stardate.
said it was a dark and stormy 57162.3.
Yeah.
That was cute.
Was that just a?
That was just a
a
cute,
funny little,
cute little
bunch
thing.
of numbers.
Maybe it means something. We'll have to look it up.
We'll have to go through. It's kind of like in The Simpsons. You got to go through.
You never know with this show.
We'll do a follow-up podcast.
We should do
just on this episode on
this is
errors
what
and
we
errata.
missed. We missed all
we
the
have
Easter
to
eggs.
we have to cross-reference all the star dates with all the episodes and figure out what star dates mean once and
It
for all.
can be an Easter episode where
And-
we talk about all the
Are you going to use an
Easter
Excel
eggs,
spreadsheet or maybe like an Access database? Do people still use Access databases?
I will use a Postgres database.
Are you going to use Python to
I'll do-
populate, or sort of like a grid?
I'll just use SQL.
You're just going to use SQL?
I'm just going to use SQL.
All right, if you want to be lame about it.
Yeah,
If you're saying you can't program a Python interface.
I could do a
to handle
Python
it.
interface.
just
I could
saying,
do it
if
on
you-
PowerShell if I wanted to.
I'm just saying if you can't do it, it's no big deal.
I could do it.
All right.
I could do it.
Now, could you do it in Turbo Pascal?
Yeah,
Or
but-
Turbo Pascal?
That's a learning language, but yes, you could do it.
Yeah, I guess.
If you were
No,
just
that's actually what it
learning-
was.
I know.
It's designed as a learning
Yeah, I mean,
language.
Basic kind of is too, but you can do a lot with Visual Basic.
You can.
You know the Visual Basic, the one where the cover is all boobies.
Yeah.
That's how they got you to program back in the 1990s. They just put a
Right.
bunch of-
Yeah, they
put a bunch
used
of boobs
Visual
on the
Basic
covers.
when they wanted to purge cache.
Yeah.
So
That's a
Kira
reference to
got,
last week's
Kira got
podcast.
promoted to colonel.
Yeah, but that
And now
happened
she's-
on Deep
she's
Space
on-
Nine.
That happened.
Yeah,
I was
like
what
season
I was gonna
7.
say about the star dates. Figuring out the star dates, it's like in The Simpsons. If you went through every episode of The Simpsons,
And looked at the star dates they mentioned.
no. The joke is what state are they living in? And we don't know because it's Springfield, any state, USA. But there's episodes that kind of show
Well, there's-
hints at which ones they wouldn't be in. I bet you in the end it shows that
There's
they
the
don't live
one-
in.
There's a
Isn't it Kentucky?
they do a behind the music sort of parody, and then it says they live in northern Kentucky.
Oh, is that what they actually say?
Yeah, which would be near Cincinnati.
Whoa.
Oh,
I bet it turns out if you piece them all together, they actually don't live in anywhere. Like they've ruled out all the states.
It's a cartoon.
all right.
Well,
And
I know
is,
what it
by the way,
is.
this is also a cartoon, the one we're talking about, Star Trek Lower Decks.
So what if it's a
real.
cartoon?
Anything else about this
King of
particular
the Hill is a
cartoon?
cartoon, and it's from Texas.
But Texas is a real place.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You're saying
Arlen
it's
isn't
not
though.
real because it's a cartoon.
Arlen is not real.
I'm saying a bunch of nonsense.
I don't
just
know
to
what
get
anything's.
your-
I don't know
get
anyone.
your
Arlen's a
dander
made-up
up.
town.
My Dan.
Okay.
My Dan.
This sounds to me
Dander.
like we've concluded all of our odds and ends.
We've exhausted everything to pieces.
I think you've
all our
exhausted
points,
me.
Yes, and our audience, but that's what they pay us
They're
for.
hanging in there. They like to hang in there.
They pay us for some high energy tomfoolery.
Brown hole.
With a hint of Star Trek
Brown
flavor.
hole.
Usually I drink 2 coffees.
We're kind of like a Star Trek tea. You know, you put the tea bag with the Star Trek leaves in it, and then we're the water.
Star Trek tea.
Brown hole. They were talking about a brown hole.
There was a brown hole.
Captain Freeman's like, that's
no
not a
such
thing.
Yeah.
That was good. Okay.
I actually.
Isn't it a thing?
I'll go through the final matter, and Dan is going to dribble extra little facts and stuff in between the closing down the podcast talk.
I googled, is there such thing as a brown hole? And what I got is idioms by the Free Dictionary. It means to poke someone in the anus, to goose someone.
It's got
You mean like
something to do
that
with-
wrestling move?
with the butt. Yes.
Yeah, the Turkish wrestling, they do that in Turkish wrestling. And they do also do it in regular wrestling. They'll check the oil. Yeah.
Is that like a 5-on-2?
What? 5-on-2.
That's when you grab somebody's balls.
not familiar with that term. I'm happy to have learned it.
It's pretty funny.
I'm happy to have learned that term, Jesse. Thank you.
One last thing. Can you confirm for me that you can refer to a party as a salon?
A salon?
If you're
salon?
if you're in like
That's how the British pronounce it.
19th century France or something.
Yeah.
What does salon mean anyway?
It means like a sophisticated
You look
party
that up,
where you
and I'll
share-
start the
you
whole
share
like
process
your
of
Vidal
art.
Sassoon?
It's like what
Setting
they were
things down.
doing. They were sharing their art and stuff. It's like I'm doing this art.
Right, I know. I just wonder what the
So-
strict definition is. The strict
Salon.
definition is an establishment where a hairdresser, beautician, or couturier conducts business. Or it means a reception room in a large house. I don't see the relation that closely.
Okay.
It's
I'll go with Jesse's definition on that.
Oh, you over what the internet says.
Yes, in this case, because sometimes the internet is not right, or sometimes the search term has not been appropriately parsed.
This is from
Maybe
Oxford
you didn't
Dictionary.
do it right,
Salon, salon,
What does
noun,
Oxford know about the
Dictionary.
English
It's
language?
a
Okay.
French word. It's a
All
French
right.
word.
French.
guys are-
Yeah.
Close that computer.
Next, that was our discussion of Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 6.
pronounced
Hear
Salon.
all, trust nothing. And next week, we are going to continue our coverage of new episodes of Star Trek Lower
Listen,
Decks.
Hear all of our podcasts and trust none of them.
And next week's episode 7, is entitled and Dan's going to dig this one. I'm predicting Dan. I'm hoping that the plot for this one is going to be right up Dan's alley because it's called A Mathematically Perfect Redemption.
Oh,
I like math.
Yeah, and Dan really likes math.
You like math the most,
and he's quite adept at it as well.
you dig it the most.
He's good at taking numbers and shuffling them about and spitting out another number and claiming that it means something.
Yep.
And all the rest of us are like, all right.
He's like a numerologist.
No, I'm not that. But math is right up my brown hole.
Ugh.
Oh.
Okay. So we will be talking about a mathematically perfect mathematically perfect redemption
He said it wrong.
next week.
He
And
did say it wrong, didn't he? He really did.
in the intervening
We should
time,
point that out.
in
He
the
really
intervening
said that wrong.
we humbly request that you tell all your friends about us.
What was the name of that thing?
All of your friends.
What was the name of that thing in Discovery? That big thing they
The
went.
Gormagander?
No, the big thing.
The species 10C?
The 10C was
The
but
burn?
The burn. There was it. But no. But what was the thing the 10C made? They made the big.
Oh, the DMA?
The DMA. Yeah, you got that DMA. Yeah, maybe they'll go to the DMA next week.
What? Because
Lower Decks. Because this one was about going to DS9, so maybe they'll go to the DMA next week.
I'm not fully understanding
Maybe
the
they'll
joke.
Maybe they'll get to go to the VMAs, the Video Music Awards. No, it was no joke. It was just saying they went to one thing in old Star Trek and they're going to another. It had nothing to do with they both start with D. It had nothing to do with that. Because one went to one Star Trek thing and now they're going to go to a different Star Trek thing.
Okay. Now I get it. Now I get
It
it.
just wasn't very useful.
With the explanation, I get it. No, useful. I don't know about useful. I'm not sure the value.
They still have
that's
to
what
do
it
they still have to do the crossover episode.
This is nominally an entertainment podcast.
Nominally.
It's nominally meant to entertain.
Are they going to do a mirror universe in the crossover episode? That'd be doubly double.
No, I'm sure they won't.
it's
That
not
No,
would
of course. I was just saying it because it sounded crazy.
All right.
What
So,
number is it?
yes, what we ask is you can rate and review.
Oh, VCT.
We are located
All
on we are located digitally, ephemerally on all the podcast services. Apple Podcasts, There's Google Podcasts. There's Stitcher, all that business. So you can find us wherever you need us. YouTube, of course. We mentioned before, you can get us on Twitter at It's Got Star Trek. Follow us. Follow a bunch of the other cool people. Join in the conversation on Trek Twitter. Trek Twitter. And Instagram, if you're into that sort of thing, at It's Got Star Trek. So just do a Google search for It's Got Star Trek. Sign up for all the things. Click sign up for all the things. And until next week,
it's got Star Trek.
That's been Star Trek.
It had some Star Trek.
It's been Star Trek. I think that's what we decided.
It's been Star Trek.
Long ago. Is that cool with you, Dan?
It's been Star Trek.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone, grab a wick. These candles aren't going to dip themselves.